I said 5 words to my cheating husband, and walked to the kitchen. My name is Diane. I am 33 years old, I live in Austin, Texas, and 14 months ago my entire life changed because of a migraine headache. That sounds strange, I know, but stay with me, because if I had not gotten that migraine on that specific Tuesday afternoon, I would probably still be married to a man who had been lying to my face for 2 years, and I would have had no idea. Let me tell you who I was before all of this happened. I was a marketing manager at a mid-sized tech company. Good salary, good benefits, the kind of job I had worked hard for since my mid-20s. I had been with my husband Daniel for 6 years, married for 3. We had a house in a nice neighborhood, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Biscuit, and what I genuinely believed was a solid, happy marriage. We had our problems like every couple. He could be distant sometimes, I could be a workaholic, but nothing that ever made me think we were in serious trouble. Nothing that made me feel like I needed to be watching my back inside my own home. Daniel worked from home. He was a freelance software developer, very good at what he did, made decent money. Because he worked from home, and I went into the office 5 days a week, we had fallen into a comfortable routine. I left at 8 a.m., I came home around 6 p.m. He usually had dinner started or at least had figured out what we were ordering. It was normal. It was domestic. I felt safe in it. Now let me tell you about the Tuesday. I had been in back-to-back meetings since 9 a.m. By early afternoon I had a migraine building behind my left eye that was making it impossible to look at my screen. I tried to push through it. I took some ibuprofen, drank water, closed my blinds. By 2:30 p.m. I could not function. My manager told me to go home and rest. I thanked her, grabbed my bag, and walked to my car. I did not text Daniel that I was coming home early. This is the detail everyone always focuses on. Why didn't you text him? The honest answer is I just didn't think to. My head was pounding. I was focused on getting home, getting into a dark room, and sleeping. I was not thinking about what I might find. I had no reason to think about what I might find. I pulled into our neighborhood at 2:55 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. There was a car parked in front of our house that I did not recognize. A silver Honda Civic. I noticed it but did not immediately think anything of it. Daniel had colleagues and clients. Sometimes people came by. I pulled into the driveway, grabbed my bag, and unlocked the front door. The house was quiet but not empty. Biscuit came running to me from the living room, which was normal. What was not normal was that he was coming from the direction of the hallway that led to our bedroom, and he seemed agitated in a way I had never seen before, circling, whining softly. I stood in my entryway for about 10 seconds just listening. I heard voices, coming from our bedroom. One of them was Daniel's. The other was a woman's. I want to tell you that I burst through the door dramatically. I did not. I stood completely still in my entryway for what felt like a very long time, but was probably about 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds something very specific happened inside me. Every strange thing from the past year suddenly clicked into place. The nights he stayed up late on his laptop after I went to bed. The weekend 2 months ago when he said a client meeting ran long, and he came home at 11 p.m. smelling like he had showered somewhere else. The way he had become slightly more distant, slightly more distracted, slightly harder to reach even when we were in the same room. I had noticed all of these things. I had filed them away as stress, as work pressure, as normal relationship shifts. Standing in my entryway at 2:55 p.m. on a Tuesday, I understood that I had been filing evidence into a folder I did not want to open. I opened the bedroom door. I will not describe in detail what I saw because I think you already know, and I think some things deserve privacy even in their ugliness. What I will tell you is that there was a woman in my bed, in my house, with my husband, on a Tuesday afternoon when he believed I was sitting in an office 12 miles away. She saw me first. I will never forget her face when she saw me. It went from confused to horrified in about half a second. Daniel had his back to the door. He turned around when he heard her reaction. I looked at my husband for a long moment. He said my name. Just my name, like a question. Like maybe he was not sure I was real. I said, and I am actually proud of this because I do not know where it came from. I said, you have 15 minutes to get out of my house. And then I turned around, walked to the kitchen, sat down at the kitchen table, and called my sister. I did not cry until after they had both left. I heard them scrambling, heard the front door open and close, heard the silver Honda Civic start up and drive away. And then it was just me and Biscuit in our house, and I put my face in my hands, and I cried for probably an hour straight. My sister arrived within 30 minutes of my phone call. She sat with me that whole night. Daniel texted me about 40 times between 3 p.m. and midnight. I read every single message, and responded to none of them. They ranged from panicked apology to explanation to defensiveness to more apology. One of them said, it wasn't what it looked like. I stared at that one for a long time. It was exactly what it looked like. We both knew that. He called my sister's number when I stopped responding to him. She answered and told him to contact me through an attorney, and then hung up. I could have kissed her. The next morning I called into work, explained I had a family emergency, and then I spent the day making phone calls. I called a divorce attorney, a woman named Patricia who had been recommended to me by a friend 2 years earlier in a completely different context, and whose number I had saved in my phone without ever thinking I would actually need it. Patricia was calm, efficient, and exactly what I needed. She walked me through everything. Texas is a community property state, which meant that everything we had built together was subject to division. The house, the savings, everything. I also, on Patricia's advice, immediately began documenting everything. Financial records, account statements, any assets I was aware of. Patricia told me that people sometimes move money when they know a divorce is coming, and she wanted to make sure we had a complete picture before Daniel had time to think too strategically. Daniel came back to the house 2 days later to talk. I let him in because Patricia said I could, and because honestly I wanted to hear what he had to say. He sat across from me at the same kitchen table where I had called my sister, and he told me that the woman, her name was Jess, they had met at a conference 18 months ago. He told me it had started as something casual, and then became something he did not know how to stop. He said he had been trying to end it for months. He said he loved me. He said he was sorry in a way that I believe he actually meant. I listened to everything he said. When he was finished, I told him I wanted a divorce, and that he should expect to hear from my attorney. He started crying. I did not. I want to be honest with you about the months that followed, because they were not a clean, triumphant story. They were hard. Divorce is hard even when it is the right decision. We sold the house because neither of us could afford it alone. I got a good settlement, but starting over financially at 33 is still starting over. There were nights I missed him. Not the man I had found in that bedroom, but the man I had thought he was, the version of him that I had built my life around. Grieving a person who is still alive and who hurt you is one of the strangest experiences I have ever had. But here is where I am now. I have a new apartment that I chose entirely by myself with no compromises. I have Biscuit, who has always been more mine than his anyway. I have a promotion I received 4 months ago that Daniel never even knew I was up for, because by the time I got it we had been separated for months. I have my sister, who proved during this entire experience that she is one of the most important people in my life. And I have something that sounds small but does not feel small. I have complete and total peace inside my own home. Every single thing in my space is mine. Every decision I make is mine. I answer to nobody, and I owe nobody an explanation for where I am, or when I am coming back. Daniel and Jess are apparently still together. I know this because mutual friends occasionally mention it. I feel nothing about this except mild indifference and a quiet hope that she locks her doors properly. People keep asking me if I regret going home early that day, if I wish I had taken something for the migraine and pushed through. And my answer is always the same: no, not for 1 second. Because the truth was already there waiting for me. The migraine just opened the door. So Reddit, was I wrong for how I handled it? For not confronting him more dramatically? For just saying, get out, and walking to the kitchen? Because some people say I was too calm. Some people say I should have said more. But I had nothing left to say. And sometimes silence is the loudest thing in the room. But tell me what you think.